Everybody. Okay. Going to get started soon. I'm going to move this a little bit to the side. And I'll be looking back and forth, doing live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And today I'm going to talk about forgiveness. Hi, Tally. Thank you for joining. I'm going to talk about forgiveness because January was the month for me to focus on new beginnings, and most of my lives, or all of my lives, were focused on new beginnings, how to start this year off right. And I do think that if we do have things in our hearts, and if we have things that we're holding on to that don't seem so healthy, then they can prevent us from moving forward. So before we get into the other months and the stuff that I have planned for you guys, I just wanted to do a short live on forgiveness so that you guys can understand the impact of forgiveness on your lives and how to pretty much learn to forgive people overall. So just bear with me. I'm gonna start in a minute. I'm just making sure that okay, Facebook is good. All right. So what forgiveness is that, I want you to think about something that somebody has done to you, or an offense, hi Christian, an offense that somebody is holding against you that pretty much is impacting you in the present, something that you're pretty much holding on to and that you haven't let go of, that you haven't pretty much forgiven the person for. And the technical definition for that is a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment and vengeance towards a person or a group of people who have harmed you. And that person can also be yourself, because I think sometimes we make decisions and we do certain things that impact us, and we're holding on to ourselves and we don't forgive ourselves, and that can cause us to pretty much just have negative feelings towards ourselves. So that group of people that I'm talking about includes you as well. So if you find that there are some things that you need to forgive yourself for, it's extremely important that you include yourself as part of that list so that you can use the tools that I'm about to share so that you can learn to forgive yourself as well. And letting go of an offense. So the offense that somebody does towards you doesn't have to be something that was intentionally planned by the person. Sometimes people do things to us that are they just do it and they don't even notice that it's hurtful towards us, because people grow up in different families, and certain things that are normal for one person may be extremely hurtful and very triggering for somebody else. So somebody could say something to you and they don't even notice that they've hurt you, which is why it's important that if you feel hurt, that communication with the ones that you love is extremely important. So making sure that saying that forgiveness, an offense can be either willingly, like the person does it to intentionally hurt you, or they could do it unwillingly. And with that said, you can choose to forgive whether the person deserves the forgiveness or whether they don't deserve it. Most of the time, we think that people don't deserve the forgiveness, but forgiveness is something that we extend towards people, not because for them, because people could harm us and move on with their lives, and you see that they're happy, they're continuing on, but we are carrying the weight of all of that ourselves. So we forgive not because of the other people, but we forgive for ourselves to set ourselves free. And it's important that I tell you what forgiveness is not, right? Just because you decide to forgive somebody doesn't mean that you are denying the seriousness of what they did to you. It's important to acknowledge, okay, this person wronged me, this person did this thing to me, and it's messed up, it's bad, like they shouldn't have never done that to me. Acknowledging that and then choosing to forgive them, that doesn't mean that you kind of remove that fact. You remove the fact that, okay, I like what they did, it was nothing, so I forgive them. No, it wasn't nothing. It was it was a very serious thing that happened against you. And it's very important that you acknowledge that, okay, this thing hurt me and this thing has impacted me in a way that is very significant to me, and hold on to that. Forgiving somebody doesn't mean that you forget what they did to you. Um, so let's say, for example, somebody punched me in the face. My face is going to remember the feeling of that. And I'm absolutely going to remember the experience of it with that person that maybe I trusted or maybe it was a friend. But at the same time, if I choose to forgive that friend that punched me in the face, it doesn't mean that I'm ever going to forget that that friend got to a point where they lost enough control to be physical and hit me. So it doesn't mean that you basically are forgetting what the person did. It's okay to remember, but I think there's a point when you heal from what the person did to you, that the pain and the stuff that you've endured, that it will become to feel more manageable, that you can remember without being pretty much triggered. And it doesn't mean that you, just because you forgive, that you condone future behaviors. It doesn't mean that if you are dealing with someone, let's stay along the line of abuse, or someone that lies a lot, it doesn't mean that you have to pretty much keep yourself in the same situation and just continue to allow the person to do the same exact thing to you. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. Like, you don't have to be friends with somebody who continuously hurts you, or somebody who has done something that has violated your boundaries and has hurt you. Doesn't mean that you have to make peace with those people. So if you choose to forgive someone, you can choose to say, hey, I forgive you. It's okay. Like, I am not holding this, I'm no longer holding this against you, but I have decided to move forward and put an end to our friendship. And that's absolutely fine, because you are not required to keep yourself in a situation that's absolutely going to continue to keep hurting you. And if you are in an abusive situation, just definitely, I would recommend that you get out of it. And forgiving someone has a lot of benefit. And to our mental health, right? There are some physical benefits, but I just want to focus today on the mental benefits. Like, you see anxiety when you're holding something against somebody, you would continue to think about it over and over again. That when you see the person, you automatically become triggered because you're remembering that thing that they did to you. Your stress is high when you come into contact with something that reminds you of the offense, or somebody that reminds you of the offense. So you're not pretty much at peace. And forgiving someone, it just scientific experiments just prove that it decreases your anxiety. You stop, like, the ruminating thoughts pretty much stop going in your head, because you've just released a load or something that you were holding. People who haven't forgiven sometimes experience symptoms of PTSD, like you have flashbacks, you have bad dreams about what happened to you. It affects your thoughts, and you constantly remembering the thing that happened to you. It impacts your self-esteem. You wonder, like, can you trust people? It impacts your relationships. So forgiving someone and let go of an offense can pretty much help you to heal yourself, and can help you restore the peace that you may have lost. And I do understand that not all situations are created equal. Not all offenses are created equal. Like, you can't compare somebody who's gone through, who maybe whose fathers have abused them, or is it physical abuse or any type of abuse or neglect. You can't compare that to, let's say, a situation in a friendship where your friend said something bad about you, which are equally deserving of forgiveness. But at the same time, like, all of those will not be healed, or will not be resolved in the same way. So understand that the situation that requires forgiveness, that the route that it takes for you to get to that forgiveness can be very different. So keep that in mind as well. So next, I'm going to talk to you guys about, like, a few things that you can do to just predispose yourself to be a more forgiving person. And at the end, I'm going to walk you guys through a short exercise on how you can pretty much just begin your process of forgiveness. So so identify something that has hurt you, and we're going to do that right now, because if you don't know that something has hurt you, let's say for example you have the habit of something happened to you and you just stuff it down. Oh, because you are conflict avoidant. Let's say you don't like conflict because you feel that you fear that you're going to lose your relationship, so you avoid all types of conflict. If that's you, then you might push down a lot of things that have happened to you, and it's like you stuff it under the rug and you never come back to those things, and eventually they will pile up and you will blow up eventually. Not literally but emotionally. You will have a nervous breakdown. You will have a mental thing that happens where all of these things will flood at you and you're not going to know how to solve it. So the first step to get to forgiveness is to identify when people do something that has hurt you, and to acknowledge, hey, this is wrong, this is something that has hurt me, and being really like honest with yourself and with those that are in your life, that they have done something that has hurt you. So ways to identify that something that you need to forgive for: if you're constantly thinking about it, it's always on your mind, or from time to time it pops up. Let's say it's something that happens 10 years ago, you find that it keeps coming up, it keeps coming into your mind, and you can't pretty much get rid of it. And you see that there are emotions that come up as you're thinking about it. Let's say for example your brother stepped on your toe and it broke your toe, and you pretty much had to go to the doctor to get it fixed, and you find that over and over again you're thinking about it and you experiencing anger towards your brother over and over again. So making sure that you identify those things. If you notice those patterns in you, begin to write those things down. They may be indications of things that you need to heal from, and or things that you need to forgive the person from. Most of the times the things that we need to heal from, we have to it involves a portion of forgiveness, because it's either was inflicted to us by ourselves or it was inflicted to us by somebody else. Then we have to make a decision. Forgiveness is a two-step process, right? It is, first, I make a decision to forgive. I decide, okay, right then and there, I'm going to choose to forgive that person. And then two, it's a process, right? It's not something that happens overnight. It's some things that daily, weekly, monthly, that we decide, okay, I'm going to, through my actions, choose to forgive that person. So once you make that decision, that's step one. And it is usually going to the person and saying, I'm going to choose to forgive. I'm choosing to forgive you. I've decided to forgive you. Or if sometimes, the people that we need to forgive, they're not around or we don't have access to them. Sometimes in therapy, I have people just basically and imagine that the person is sitting on the chair that is next to you. So if either you can put the person as close as possible or as far away as possible, whatever feels safe to you, and basically talk to the empty chair as as if you're talking to the person. And you would say, let's say for example, that brother that stepped on your big toe and broke it, and you would speak to them as if they are right there next to you and say, hey, I've decided to just forgive you. You broke my toe. This is how it impacted me. It had me, in the emergency room, and I spent weeks and weeks crying and feeling angry about what you did, and I'm letting you go. That's step one. And then step two would be when you see your brother, and when you see the anger rise up inside of you towards your brother about that same thing that you said, hey, I've already forgiven you for that, then you would begin to practice it every day. You've already forgiven him. Let it go. You would take a few deep breaths and literally just let it go. People don't understand that trauma lives in our bodies and that we carry that in different parts of us. That is why I always ask people, like, where do you feel that in your body? And that's like a specific question that I ask my clients when we're processing things, because trauma lives in the body. When we begin talking about heavy things, they would notice a tension either in their back, in their chest, and breathing into that and letting it go is something that automatically just release the tension of the trauma in the body. So making sure that as you say, hey, I forgive you, and you notice the tension, you notice that, okay, you have a frown on your face when this person begins to when this person is around, and you remember the thing that they did to you, that you literally just release it from your body and allow yourself to just remind yourself, okay, I've forgiven this person. I'm feeling this right now. I acknowledge that it's still hurting me, right? Just because you're hurting, just because you forgive doesn't mean that the pain goes away, but it takes time for you to learn how to do that. And the next thing that you can do, you can begin to change the way that you see yourself. When people hurt us, part of that allows us to pretty much just put some of that on ourselves. Like, I should have known better. I should have never put myself in this situation. I should be better. I should be more this, more that. So getting a better view of ourselves, because when things happen to us, it impacts our self-esteem. It impacts the way that we see ourselves, especially in more traumatic situations. So making sure that we develop a better view of ourselves, because when we begin to see ourselves in a better way, then we will be able to extend empathy and grace and forgiveness to other people. So the next thing is, I think I said this earlier, is to practice it every day. It's not something that's just going to happen just because we decide to do it. And sometimes I find that if you're a Christian, that God will give you just that peace, automatic peace, that you can let it go and you don't feel the effects of it. But most of the time, you have to work through it, and you have to allow yourself to get to a place where you can truly just let it go completely. So practice it daily. And with more, I guess, intense offenses, with like more traumatic stuff like sexual abuse or physical abuse or things that happen in childhood, it's extremely important that we seek help so that we can experience inner healing. That is not always something that we can do on our own. So we have to make sure that we seek the proper help so that we can focus on the pain. When we focus on our pain, and sometimes when we've been hurt, what gets in the way of us forgiving other people is that we focus on our pain, that we only see what happens to us and the way that it impacts us, that we can't see anyone else. And as we deal with like clearing out the dust which is the pain that is caused by the offense, then that allows us to see the other person more, to see their side of the story, to see what was causing them to react in the way that they did. Then that allows us to pretty much have a better view of the other person, which increases our capacity to have empathy and compassion towards them as well. Yes, they harmed us, but at the same time, people don't hurt people just because. Some people are evil and they can, but most of the time, it's the person's own pain that is manifesting in their relationships, and they end up hurting us. So, being really mindful of that when we clear our own pain, that when we heal and we get rid of our own pain, we kind of like clear the dust in the room, and we can see more than the pain that is in front of us. So dealing with your own issues, healing, your childhood trauma or the childhood offenses that were, done to you, will allow you to see the person that hurt you in a different way, and allow you to move towards forgiveness. And the last thing is to really be patient with yourself and have accountability, because we can't go through life alone. Some people have to be aware of the things that we're dealing with, whether it is a professional or a friend or a family member. Let people know what you're going through and what you're trying to do, so that they can be able to keep you accountable to the things that you're doing, so that if you want to forgive that person, they can just nudge you and remind you, hey, you said you were working towards forgiving that person, and so that you can be able to do that. So I wanted to add a small activity to today. So whether you're watching me now, with me now, or you are catching the replay, I just want to invite you to um, just close your eyes for a moment. If you are able to, just close your eyes for a moment and just tune into your body. Tune into the things that are happening with you right now. Tune into the way that your body is feeling. And as I'm talking about forgiveness, I acknowledge that there might be some things that may have come up for you, or some things that you may have noticed, that some offenses that may have come to your mind. So as you have closed your eyes, try to just focus on one thing. And I'm going to say focus on a level one thing that you may be holding against somebody else, something that you may be holding, someone has done to you that is not as extreme as, let's say, physical or sexual abuse, or something that was repeated. Something level one, maybe somebody said something about you that did not sit right with you. Just just focus on that for a moment as your eyes are closed. And as you're thinking about that, just tune into your body and just notice how that's sitting with you, just physically. And just think about it and think about the person. And then notice what's happening with you right now. Or you can even go back to a time when you needed to forgive someone for something, and try to remember what happened with you or how you were feeling at that time. And I want you to imagine that person right next to you. Maybe they're sitting right next to you on the chair that you're sitting on. If you're sitting on a couch, maybe they're right there with you. Or you can imagine them a little bit further away, depending on how comfortable you are. So you can just place them wherever that feels the most comfortable for you. And just imagine them sitting there. And I can't see you guys. So you have the freedom to just talk to them and tell them how what they did felt for you. And just take a moment. I'm just gonna just stop talking for a moment. Just express that to them right now. How you felt, how what they did impacted you. Just take a few seconds and do that. And as you're doing that, just say to yourself out loud what you would have wanted them to say back to you. You can just imagine them, or say to yourself that they said, "I'm sorry," or whatever it is that you needed to hear at the time that, they've hurt you. Just imagine yourself just saying that to yourself. And I'm going to give you guys a few minutes, a couple of seconds to do that. And most likely, you would have either accepted what it is that they extended towards you or not. But just check in with yourself after you've done that, after you've spoken to them, and after you have pretty much just said back to yourself that, you know, that whatever it is that they needed to say, back to you. Maybe, "I'm sorry for doing this to you, for hurting you in this way." Just take it in. See if you can receive it, even if in real life the person's attitude is, I didn't do anything wrong and I'm not going to say I'm sorry. But you can take care of yourself in that way, and you can extend that to yourself and allow yourself to get to a point where you just say the phrase, I forgive you. And that is the most freeing statement that you can say, the most freeing sentence that you can say to somebody, because then that allows you to get your peace back. So if you've gone through all the steps with me, if you walk through all of them with me, say, I forgive you. I'm letting go. I'm not holding on to this offense anymore. And I'm choosing to set myself free. And the thing is that we think that forgiveness is that we open a prison cage just and we push the person in there and we lock it. But no, it's we open the cage, we open the cage, we walk in and we lock ourselves in and throw away the key. And you can choose to do differently today by choosing to forgive the people that have wronged you. And I'm not saying that, your pain is not valid, right? That's not what I'm saying at all. But you can choose to set yourself free today. So if you need to go back and do the exercise or write down the steps, right? First, you acknowledge what the pain point is, what you need to forgive the person about, what it is that is still present in your life and is still hurting you. As I run through the steps, if you guys that are watching have questions, you can please post them in the comment box or the question box, and I will answer them at the end. First, you acknowledge, hey, this person hurt me, and this is something that is still on my mind and that I need to be mindful of. Two, you make sure that you imagine the person sitting next to you and you confess, or you create a meeting with the person and you say, hey, this is the thing that you did that have been hurting me, and I know I need to forgive you. I just needed you to know that you've hurt me in this way. And then three, whether the person chooses to apologize for their wrongdoing or not, you imagine them sitting next to you or as far away from you as possible, and you decide that you um and you either confess it to them if they're not in the room, and you decide that you are going to tell them that you forgive them. You can, if the person is in the room with you, you can allow them to say, hey, I'm sorry for this, or you can say it to yourself. Imagine them saying it to you, and then take some time to take that in, or allow the person, if they're in person and they're willing to just say I'm sorry, you take that in. And then the last part is you choose and you decide that you are pretty much going to forgive the person. And I think if you're able to do that, then you will be able to set yourself free. So my life was absolutely longer than usual, but I do have um, a few announcements for you guys. Today, I have canceled the pastoral luncheon that I wanted to have because of COVID and the way that things are happening. It's not the right time for that. So I will have something live where all the pastors can get together and can still get the support that I wanted to provide for them. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to set a date for that to begin. And there is a parenting course that you can sign up for if you're a parent and you want to join. Definitely, it will start on February 27th. If you would like to join, you can sign up for that at nychealingcenter.com and go to upcoming events, and you can have the information for that. Or you can click the link in my bio and sign up for that as well. And that is all I have for you guys. I do a live every single Wednesday, unless there is something that comes up and I'm not able to do it. Every single Wednesday. Hi, Delbert. Thank you for joining. every single Wednesday, I do a live around 12:30 where I focus on different things. This is the last live for January, where I was talking about new beginnings and different things that we can do to start the year right. In February, I will be focusing on relationships and on how and relationships, whether romantic relationships or friendships, so that we can better our relationships. And I have a topic for each month, so stay tuned for that. And I hope you guys can join in the future lives. And if you need therapy and you would like to, have a free consultation, there's a link in my bio as well. You can click on that and pretty much just schedule it yourself. And I will meet with you and we can begin your healing journey together. That is all for today. My life was definitely longer than usual, but I think that, we need to forgive, and it's extremely important that we create the time and the space for us to be able to do that. I don't see any questions, so that is all for today. I will see you guys next week for, we're going to be talking about relationships and healing and all of that. I'm all about healing. We're going to talk about relationships and healing. So I will speak to you guys next week. See you soon. Bye.